Okay, I want to talk about healing the sick. I did a short talk the other week, and I spoke about a couple of my first experiences, testimonies really, of seeing sick people healed. And I'm talking about definitely physical healing. You know, there is this whole realm of emotional healing that God does in the area of our soul, our mind, our will and emotions, this sort of invisible part of us that science and medicine refuses to acknowledge, it seems. Maybe a bit of psychology, we'll delve into it in some strange way, but certainly not with any theological construct. Maybe Jung might go there, but that's another topic altogether. So physical healing, I shared in my first talk about how my mum got healed, and then a guy called Mark had a word of knowledge for him, and God miraculously healed his left shoulder. And go back and watch that if you wish. And they were my first experiences of the gift of healing. You have to excuse me, I'm on the beach here and I'm being bitten by loads of sandflies, and it isn't really very nice. So I'm going to walk back, but the sunset's great. So when I came back from Cyprus after meeting with Jesus, I remember meeting an old guy called Derek. I sat on a wall once at the end of my road, and he used to work in the pub I used to go to before I went out to Cyprus. He might have still worked there, I think he did. And I was just I just got talking to him about the gospel and what had happened to me and stuff, and he mentioned something about his eye, that he'd lost his sight in his left eye. So I prayed for him there and then, and God gave him his sight back in his left eye. True. I mean, I saw him around for years after that, and he would say again and again, you know, thank you. It was down to you that I got my sight back. He'd always say that, it's down to you. And I used to really admonish him and say, listen, it was Jesus, it wasn't me. I prayed for you, but Jesus healed you. I just kind of really wanted him to know that. And he's since gone on to be with the Lord. And it definitely did open him up to a lot of faith. And then I started working at a school, teaching sports. And I prayed for a lot of the kids there, you know, if they would have an injury and stuff, and I would share my faith with them. And it was really open back then in the 90s, actually. I think you get in a lot more trouble these days for being open about your faith in a secular environment like a school. I've discovered I got sacked from a couple of jobs for telling people about my faith, for sure. But there was one really significant time I remember at that school. I'd been away in Wales somewhere at some Christian convention, and God had really met with us there in a really powerful way. I mean, it was flipping super intense. And I came back to work teaching this handball game at the school, and as soon as I arrived back, it was in the February, this lad called Phil brings a Muslim lad up to me, and his name was Ghosh Dastadar, I think his name was. And he had bust his hand, and they had a match, I think, that day. And this guy Phil goes, hey sir, can you pray for this guy's hand? Because you prayed for my thumb once and it got better. And Ghosh has bust his hand and he can't play. I mean, this guy had amazing faith. And the timing was amazing, because I was, you know, I was full of the presence of God, having a mad encounter in the presence of God with loads of other people the whole weekend. So I said, sure. So he put his hand towards me, and I took hold of his hand, and I didn't even have time to say any words. It was just God just leapt into his hand, and we all knew he was healed. I mean, we all felt it. It was just crazy. And he started playing handball immediately. So that was really cool. And this one time I remember particularly, it was really powerful. And it was in Bulgaria. It was around a similar time, actually. I think it was in the summer, that same summer of that year. And we were doing a mission out there, and I was leading a team. I was a new believer, had loads of insecurities still, and there was one guy leading a team. He was about 18 and was just so secure in himself and was doing such a great job. And my friend Stuart decided he wanted me to lead one of these teams. and I was 25, but really just didn't have the people skills and the confidence to lead a group of 30 odd people, most of them older than me and certainly far more wise and experienced in the things of God than me. And there was a lovely guy called Roy Young who got alongside me and really helped me and steered me into it. I really appreciate that man and his help there. That was great. Anyway, that's what I'm just reminiscing as I'm reminded of these stuff. Anyway, we're doing an outreach in some local area around Burgas in Bulgaria, and we just kind of, I remember feeling really crap that day. I mean, I was particularly feeling really like I'm rubbish at this. What am I doing? Feeling really bankrupt and empty and underqualified. And one of the translators brings a young boy up to me who's got a bad stomach, and she says to me, "Hey, this guy's got a bad stomach, can you pray for him?" And I looked at this kid, he must have been about 5 or 6, and I kind of examined my own heart thinking, oh dear, you know, I've just got nothing to give this kid. And from this place of bankruptcy and emptiness, I remember I put my hand on his tummy, and this thing came up for me. It was like, oh God. It was like just a broken emptiness and a desire for God to do something for this kid. And this bolt of grace came up and shot down my arm and went bang into this kid's stomach. And I knew, and he knew he was healed. And for sure he was, you know. Which brings me on to a recurring dream I've had about this whole thing of praying for the sick, and that's been of me being weeping and feeling really uncomfortable about my face being all screwed up with weepingness and tears and brokenness. But the more I give myself to the tears and the compassion that flows through me, the more grace and power is coming through my hands. I've had experiences of that. I've had experiences of when I prayed for people and suddenly being really broken and having all these tears and seeing God do amazing stuff. I woke up from a dream one morning after praying for the sick, and this is another interesting thing, how God releases anointings through dreams. I mean, he does that with me all the time, and if he does it with me, obviously he does it with other people. And I woke up after a dream of praying for the sick, and I woke up in this bed, and I'm shaking as I wake up. And for a season after that, pretty much everybody I prayed for got healed. I mean, like just wrecked ankles and all kinds of stuff, and people got, you know. So yeah, a few stories and testimonies, and yeah, God does this stuff.